Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports podcast, the college offseason podcast, where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the offseason. So, because I have Bean, Matt decided it would be a great idea for him to just get a random turtle so that for him to hold on the podcast. Explain yourself, sir.
I wanted something to hold and look cool, so now I have the skeleton turtle.
Well, personally, I think it would be a little cooler if it was closer to Godzilla than Gamera, but that's where I stand on that.
His name is Franklin, okay?
I feel like that's already taken. I feel like you
No,
have to come up with a more original name than that.
his name is Frank.
Wow.
I took
You
up
came
the
with
deal with
the most basic name you could. I think you should. I think you should still pick a better name. We might even run that in the poll after the show. Is that does Matt need a better name for his turtle?
Everyone will be like, we don't know what we're voting for, but let's vote yes.
Exactly. Oh Lord. Anyways, oh yeah, I'm a little groggy. I'm not even gonna lie. I took too long on my pre-podcast nap, so I'm kind of waking myself up here. But I have a feeling we will be wide awake when we get into today's topics as we talk about some crazy, stupid narratives we've been seeing about the offseason of college basketball and college football. Matt, are you ready to get into them?
Yeah, I guess so. Let's have some fun.
Oh, that was not reassuring at all.
No, we're not having any fun.
This is not a fun podcast.
We're not going to have any fun. You made
My
fun of
grand
my people. It's over.
darn. Well, my grandma says we're not funny either, so
Really? Wow.
yeah. I know. You went right for the jugular there.
Wow.
Well, sorry, grandma.
Sorry. Sorry.
Sorry. Sorry I disappoint you.
We've let Les's grandma down. There is no point in going on. The show is over.
We might, yep. This might be the last episode of the Less is More Sports podcast. Anyways, now to officially get into the topics, we're going to give you 10 narratives that we've been hearing that are just, either absolutely crazy or actually raise a pretty good question. The first narrative I have is that Cooper Flagg, as a lot of you all know, is one of the best players in high school basketball. Absolutely dominated the 16U EYBL session this summer. But some believe it wasn't as impressive as others. So my narrative, our first narrative that we're going to get into is Cooper Flagg's EYBL performance is skewed because he didn't play up an age group. Basically, he only played 16U, which he is 16 years old, and didn't play 17U. So people think that his performances aren't as impressive as they could be. Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
The sign of a truly wise man is to admit when he has no idea what he's dealing with. And Les, you of all people know that I do not follow these AAU tournaments and whatnot the way you do. And I really have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But all I can say is if a kid is that high of a prospect, he can play whoever the hell he wants. And if he's really that high of a prospect, he's going to be impressive. To me, it doesn't matter if you're playing 16, 17, 18-year-olds. If you've got talent, you've got talent. And that's what it comes down to. So, I mean, I get that that's valid. I get the criticism there, but I mean, 16 and 17 really isn't that drastic of a difference. If we were talking about like 18, maybe, but like it's only
And they don't even play 18U and not in
so you got to be
AU.
in college by that point, I bet.
Yeah.
So, I really don't have that strong of a take on it. It's just if a guy's talented, it doesn't matter who he's balling out for. No one's going to rescind their scholarship because he played people his age instead of a year older. He's a good player. He's going to be a good player. Just leave the kid alone.
As Matt comes with the fair take, I'm going to come in with the absolutely, you all are stupid, shut the hell up take. So first point, Maine U, the AAU program he plays for, doesn't even have a 17U team, so he doesn't even have that option. And in AAU, you're only allowed to play for either your state or a bordering state, and that pretty much leaves Maine.
He could play for New Brunswick or something.
No. It leaves Maine and New Hampshire, which, not really exactly basketball hotspots. So that's point number one.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay. The disrespect to the American East champion Vermont Catamounts that just spilled out of your. Oh, wait. You said New Hampshire, didn't you?
Yes.
Well, still, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine.
Maine only borders one state. You
I
of all
know,
people know this. Come on
I
now.
know. But I just feel like you're disrespecting Vermont basketball, and we don't do that here. So
No, we're not even at the college. We're at the high school
I
level, Matt. We're at the
okay.
recruiting level right now. We're
Well,
not
you
even
said
talking
it
about
wasn't a
college basketball.
basketball area. Okay, the disrespect to the Maine Black Bears. There we go.
Still, like, there's not okay. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of top end 5-star prospects that come out of that area.
And
You got to get down to Massachusetts and below before you start getting like a plethora of them.
the disrespect to the Maine Red Claws is
You're right. Well, as you know on this podcast, I disrespect the mid majors. You're the mid major guy. I'm the big school guy, and that's the narrative that
the
we've
Maine
come to
Red Claws are
understand.
the G League team.
Anyways, nothing you said is any relevant to what I said at all. But I'm not disrespecting anybody. I'm only disrespecting the people that believe this take. So as I continue to my next point about this, he has played up. He played on Team USA 17U team when he was 15, and he led them in rebounds and steals. He started for Montverde as a true sophomore. And let me tell you how insane that is. Montverde is the most dominant high school basketball program in the country. It probably will be rivaled by Link Academy in the coming years, but that's to be determined. They are loaded with top ranked recruits on the roster every year. And to put that in perspective, 5-star Duke commit Sean Stewart came off the bench for that same Montverde team he played on. 2022 Gatorade Player of the Year, Derek Whitehead, joined Montverde in 8th grade, and he didn't start till his senior year. Coop is already starting as a sophomore for a program like that. Not to mention, one of my final points, his age group is loaded. They got Coop. You got the Boozer twins. You got Koa Pete, who everyone's, for whatever reason, seeming to forget about now. You got Darren Patterson. You got Caleb Wilson, Malik Thomas, Jalen Harrelson, etc. And the last point is, we're not even talking about this if it weren't for Tyron Stokes and AJ DeBanza playing up. So again, I think it's getting to the point where Cooper Flagg is reaching that level of stardom that we're just nitpicking anything we can to tear him down. And as you all know, now you messed with me because my Facebook is a Cooper Flagg fan page. So back off, you weirdos. That's all I have to say about that.
He's not lying about the Facebook page, people. That's the only reason I know who this guy is because every day I get on and I see what Cooper Flagg had for breakfast and how that impacts Duke's recruiting rankings. And
Who eats healthier breakfast, is me or Cooper Flagg?
I'm going to assume Cooper Flagg. I've not seen your pantry, but I don't think that it's even close, bub. I'm sorry.
I mean, I eat Special K and grapefruit for breakfast every morning.
You should eat Raisin Bran. Keeps you
I
regular.
do eat Raisin Bran.
Keeps you
Special
regular.
K, Raisin Bran, I switch it up a little bit from time to time. Just to add a little razzle dazzle.
a little razzle dazzle on that diet is like mini wheats.
You know what? I think you're onto something. I might have to go to the store and get some mini wheats after the show.
Get the cinnamon sugar. That's the golden ticket.
Now you're just wanting me to eat unhealthier than Cooper Flagg.
Cinnamon sugar is not. Oh my god, it's not unhealthy.
It's sugar. Sugar. I'm not going to break down the scientific behind it, but it's straight sugar, bud.
Sugar.
Okay. Anyways, do we have anything to add about that narrative?
No, let's go to the next topic.
The next topic, number 2, Josh Heppel, the head coach of Tennessee, can't recruit. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm looking right here at the recruiting things from at the recruits from 2024, where they have the 13th ranked national class and 6th overall in the SEC. Now, let's be honest. If we're looking at another conference, that may be a little bit like, ooh, 6th in the conference, 6th in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize it's the flippin' SEC. I mean, you've got Alabama, you've got Georgia, you've got incoming Oklahoma and incoming Texas to deal with. You're in really good shape in the SEC if you're in 6 because you're getting players at that level that would be number 1 in just about any other conference that you played in except the Big Ten. And I mean, still 13th overall nationally, to give you an idea. That's still only behind like the biggest of the big boys, as we like to say. So if you're in there as a guy who came over from Central Florida, you're doing pretty damn well for yourself. You got Joe Milton to come in. You've got a hell of a roster. I guess it just doesn't. The reason this exists is because, like I said, you're in the SEC where you have to be bigger, better, stronger, everything. but the comparisons are just so steep because of the guys you're in there with. Whether it be Saban or Kirby or hell, even Mark Stoops gets a lot of credit for the way he's revitalized Kentucky. That's where that narrative comes from, and the fact that Tennessee has lofty expectations, especially coming off a year of what might have been with the Hendon Hooker injury and him subsequently leaving. So I mean, I think it's silly. I think if Indiana had a guy like Josh Heupel who could recruit like that, I'd be over the moon. So I mean, I think that the problem here is that comparison is the thief of joy for a lot of people because Tennessee is coming back. They're finally back after all those years of not being back, it seems like. Or, well, not back, but being competitive. And now it feels like they're back, and now the scrutiny has kicked in, especially in a conference that's as loaded year in and year out and only going to get more intense as a Southeastern Conference. I know. I see it.
Because they're coming.
Yeah, well, they're coming, and I know you don't want to admit it, but Oklahoma, they stepped the game up too.
Boo.
Mercy.
Trash. No. Oh my gosh. I need a new co-host. I'm filling out co-host applications after that one.
Boo, and I had to finish the gap. Come on.
Oh Lord. Anyways, something you said inspired a hot take that I have, but I think we're gonna save that for our cap or no cap episode. So stay tuned. Anyways, so as for what I have to say about this, I'm going to keep it short, sweet, to the point. Tennessee has 3 top 10 recruits in the history of the program. Huepel has recruited 2 of them. The other is Peyton Manning. Case closed. That's all I have to say.
Who?
Really now. Really now.
Guy who got some
As you live in Indiana, yes, come on now.
All I know is that T. Martin won the championship. I'm just saying.
Oh, we're doing that. That's what we're doing now? That's what we're doing now. Okay.
You know, Les, if this podcast ended today and like I disappeared off the face of the earth, life would go on. You know, I'm just having a Jim Irsay moment here.
I was about to say, don't you start quoting Jim Irsay now. I guess in this moment, Matt is Jim Irsay and I'm Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. You know what, Les? The grand scheme, nothing really matters. We are stardust aloft in the universe of chaos.
I think Irsay needs to do us all a favor and lay off the oxys, but you know.
I wish I had a big tour bus like that. But yeah, Les, you're 100% right.
I wish I could make that kind of money and do drugs.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs, kids, but you know.
Don't do drugs unless you're rich.
There we go. If you take any away from this podcast, don't do drugs unless you're rich.
Unless your point's 100% accurate too. I mean, anytime a SEC program only has 3 top 100 recruits all time, and one was Peyton Manning, and your guy has 2, you're reading too much into it.
Exactly. So going from one guy that supposedly can't recruit to another guy that supposedly can't recruit, and one that Matt just absolutely loves, and I couldn't wait to hear what he has to say about this. And the narrative is that Brian Kelly can't recruit. As you all know, Matt's favorite coach in college football is Brian Kelly. He even compared him to tap water a couple episodes, not more than a couple, quite a few.
A year and a half ago.
I was going to say, yeah, he compared him to tap water. He said he had the worst coaching debut of all time. And he came to the realization that he never hated Notre Dame. He hated Brian Kelly. So I'm really interested to see what Matt has to say about this. So Matt, you have the floor.
For the record, I said he was a glass of water in a Mountain Dew program. Because, I mean, for goodness sake, he's at LSU. Brian Kelly and his fake Southern accent and his fake dancing. Yeah, man, I don't get it at all. But the one thing, I know Les wants me to get mad and be like, well, Brian Kelly sucks. He's terrible, yada, yada, yada. And Les, if I did that, it would just be drinking pure 100% grade haterade. And I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it because the guy can obviously recruit. That's why he's making those stupid videos about stuff. That's why he's doing those stupid dances, is because he's trying to prove in today's wonderful world that he can hang in there and give kids what they want. And I mean, he's done that. I mean, LSU consistently, this year they have 23, last year they have 26, the 5th overall ranked class. And now, you know what they're adding in? They've got the number 2 overall transfer class. And in this new modern world of football that we live in, that's just how it is. I mean, we've got to give credit to Will Redmond. We've got to give credit to the fact Baton Rouge is freaking crazy about the LSU Tigers. But they've gotten 14 commits out of the transfer portal this year, 8 4-star recruits, and that trails only one school, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, a little school with a showy coach named Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes, who basically said our roster is open for free agency. LSU is not like Colorado. These guys are, when they get recruited, are the cream of the crop. They're going to one of the top programs in the country year in and year out, and they're still transferring into LSU. So they have the fifth overall class. They've got the sixth ranked overall if you're just counting freshmen. They've got the second ranked overall if you're just counting transfer kids. And even before that, yeah, I know Notre Dame is a football legend, a football icon, but he could recruit at Cincinnati, and he recruited kids to go to Notre Dame, Indiana, to go to South Bend, Indiana, in the fall, in the winter, when it can't be gorgeous on a good day, and also snow 20 inches the next day. Kids from all around the country, kids from Hawaii to come to play for Notre Dame. So no, as much as I dislike the dude's swarmy attitude, I can't not I can't just say, oh my God, he's a bad recruiter. Because if I'm going to use that argument that Tennessee is doing well by being in a deep conference, I can't lie about the team that's number 5 overall in the nation, ahead of Tennessee by 8 spots, and one of the top in the SEC that's clearly adapting and evolving with the way the portal and college athletics are changing.
I mean, my point is even simpler than that. He's literally had a good team everywhere he's gone. Cincinnati was good. Notre Dame was good. LSU is looking good. And as much you can be the best coach in the world, but if you don't have players to execute, it doesn't matter. You need good players to be a successful coach. And when you look at a coach who has been successful everywhere he's gone, you don't get that without being able to recruit. That's not how this works. This isn't Burger King. You can't have it your way. This is just the reality that we live in.
Whopper, Brian Kelly. Oh. I broke Les's train of thought entirely.
You really did. I think it's time to move on to this next narrative that I'd say pissed both of us off quite a bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. It is, yeah.
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 So I guess fans thought it was a good idea to troll Bronny James's cardiac arrest. Matt, proceed.
I would just like to say that anybody who did that is awful, terrible, spineless, and a few other words that I'd like to throw in there that aren't family friendly. But man, he's a kid, for God's sake, man. If that was your kid, if you had a kid, and I know hopefully a lot of the people who are doing this stupidity don't have kids, but they probably do. If that was your kid, you'd feel a lot differently. I don't care if you're part of a flame war with somebody else about his dad. He's a kid. He's a human being. Leave him the hell alone and just either wish him the best or just shut the hell up.
Yeah, pretty much. Everything you just said and a few more choice words. You're a freaking coward. You are making. First of all, I don't wish cardiac arrest on my worst enemy, let alone somebody I don't even know. Look, you may hate LeBron James. I've been on this podcast before we changed the niche of our podcast to the college offseason as saying that the hate for his dad is stupid. The hate for him is even dumber because what the hell has he done to piss anybody off? Like literally, he was born into expectations because of just who his dad is, something he has absolutely no control over. And now because he's LeBron's kid and he suffers a heart attack, you're gonna make fun of it. You're gonna make fun of that. What's wrong with you? Like humans are just absolutely miserable people. And if you think it's a good idea to make fun of that, I don't care if it's me. I don't care if it's Matt. I don't care if it's Bean. I don't care if it's Donald Trump. I don't care if it's Joe Biden. I don't care if it's LeBron James. I don't care if it's Kobe Bryant. I don't care who it is. If you have it in your heart to make fun of someone who has a cardiac arrest, you need to stop watching this podcast. We don't want you as a fan. That's freaking disgusting. And please, shut the hell up and go find something that makes you so less miserable that you don't feel the need to do that. Like
Yeah,
when you do that, all you do is reflect your own self miserableness or whatever the hell word you want to use onto the world. Stop. It's stupid.
yep.
Get a freaking life, you weirdos.
Just leave 18 and 19-year-olds alone. How about that?
Yeah,
Just in
how about just
general,
leave
it's a good
everyone
rule
alone?
to live by. Unless they're doing something that's going to hurt them or other people, just leave them alone. They already are dealing with enough. They don't need your stupid ass chiming in and making a comment about why so and so is now the greatest of all time. It's not the time. It's not the place. There is never a time and there is never a place to make a joke like that. So just keep it to yourself, or better yet, think better thoughts and move on.
Just say Jesus loves you and move on.
Exactly.
Anyways, now let's go on to a more upbeat topic. One that I think is very going to be very interesting with the fans. Colorado is joining the Big 12. Matt, good or bad move?
This is going to be the longest segment of the day, so here we go.
Oh Lord,
Because
put my mic
well,
down.
this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. I think it's a good move for Colorado because I think we all, ever since that Big Ten move for USC and UCLA, we've just been waiting for the seismic shift to begin. And what Colorado is seeing is that they're not super duper competitive in the Pac-12. They've got a new coach who's injected life into the program for the first time ever. They've got a decent recruiting class. They'll even have a good basketball team for the next couple years with the way they've been recruiting. And what better way to do that than to move to a conference that's a little bit more winnable? I mean, there are good teams in the Big 12, even after Texas and Oklahoma leave. Don't get me wrong. But if Deion Sanders takes off, it's much more winnable in football, and it's much more winnable in basketball because you've got Kansas, yeah, but you still have a chance. Kansas could have an off year or an off game, and if you're recruiting well, that's what you can do. But now the question shifts to: is Arizona going to join the Big 12? And if that happens, what happens after that point? Because we're slowly entering that period of probably having four mega conferences. And that's just how it's going to be. And the top four teams from now will probably be the top four seeds in the playoffs, and then the other four will be decided by who has the best record. And what I think now, the next domino to fall, Arizona's the next one. If Arizona leaves and joins the Big 12, the Pac-12 is pretty much going to be done for. But the thing I do think will happen that I've changed my mind on even since I texted you is that I don't know if Oregon and Washington are exactly what the Big Ten will be looking for because they're waiting for this move. I think instead, and I don't know what's causing me to think this, they're going to take Cal, even though they have crappy athletics, and Stanford because of their academic prowess. Cal and Stanford do the academics, and that's what the Big Ten wants to look like. And use having Cal and Stanford get that so they can get the Cal Board of Regents and colleges off their backs because all the California major schools will be together. And use the fact they've got Cal, Stanford, and USC, in addition to like Michigan and Ohio State, as a means of luring Notre Dame out of independency and into the conference because it makes sense geographically. And if you're like, hey, your rivals with Stanford, your rivals with USC, we've got them in our conference now. Why don't you just stick around here instead of messing around with the ACC anymore? We've got better basketball. People like this league. You'll make more money. You just throw out that ACC affiliation for sports, become a Big Ten member. Bada bing, bada boom. You've got a Western quadrant with the California teams. You add the golden goose that is literally into Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and then or maybe you add Oregon just to get like a strange amount, even amount of teams. Maybe you don't. Maybe you see if Florida State is the other domino. If they join the SEC, maybe you walk up to North Carolina if you're the Big Ten and be like, hey, want to join the Big Ten? I mean, I know it's not really super geographical, but we got teams in California.
And they don't really fit their academic prowess standard, but hey, is that too soon?
No, it's not too soon. Heck, they could take Duke if Duke stays up on the trajectory they're on. I mean, you never know with football. I mean, like I said, if the reason I think they'd be interested in Cal is just because it gets that California lawsuit off their back, and they have like everybody in the California quadrant together. And then, like I said, it's just a ploy to get Notre Dame because you'll have half their rivals on their schedule. So I think it's a good move for Colorado. I think they're anticipating before they have to react. Which, if there's anything we've learned from the cases of Western Kentucky and San Diego State getting left out of like respective conferences or having to go with their tail between their legs to others, is probably a good move. And like I said, it makes more sense geographically. It makes more, you get the great college town of Boulder and a conference of great college towns. You've got a lot of stuff going for you if you join the Big 12. And if you are successful, it's another ploy. If you're in one of the major four conferences to tell Deion Sanders when somebody else comes a knocking, hey, you're already in a power conference. You don't need to move to Florida State or any SEC school. You just stay put. But yeah, I think this is going to be a domino effect that sets off a lot of things. And if Arizona goes and that could happen any second. While we're on the air right now, Arizona could vote to join the Big 12. When that happens, that's when the floodgates opens, and that's when we get a lot of intrigue that pops up. It's like, well, if Arizona's coming, do you want to add Utah so you can, in your new beautiful conference, have the Holy War, the entire state of Utah? Do you want to add Arizona State, Washington State, and Oregon State? You're going to the Mountain West. I'm sorry, you're going to play Boise State now. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and I think the ultimate end game is just four-ish major conferences with about 24 teams each. And I've thought that ever since the NIL thing began because the money involved is so big now that there's just only so much you can do. There's more money in a mega conference than there is in tiny conferences that are a little bit more spirited. And that's just how it's going to be.
We found a way to shout out Boise State on an episode. We do it yet again. Shout out to the Broncos. But anyways, when I first heard this news, of course, my first thought was it makes sense for national exposure, more TV deals, less travel, ultimately
Yep.
more money. But I couldn't help but to think about a point Matt made on one of our podcasts a while ago, and that's pretty much what he just summed up in a gist, is that college football, because of NIL and because of all the new deals and everything like that, they're moving more and more progressively towards having more of like an NFL style model as far as like a 2 or 3 to 4 major conferences. And I think I was kind of like skeptical about it at first, but the more and more I think about it, I think Matt's right. It's going to make for great football. We're going to have like Colorado playing like Florida State at like 12 at like noon on a Saturday, and it's going to be amazing. So, yeah, I think it's once everything is settled, I think once with this move, with the potential Arizona move, we'll talk about the Florida State move here in a little bit, but this is going to start an absolute revolution when it comes to like just relining conferences in college football. So it starts with this. Oh gosh, we got to start hurrying up. We got about 10 minutes left. Anyways, so speed round. I feel like Matt's going to let me dominate these next two questions. Next two narratives. John Scheyer brings in coaches outside of the Brotherhood. Is this a good or bad move? Matt, do you have anything you really want to say? Or you want me to take over on this one?
I'll just do a quick statement. One of the things that Indiana people always talked about when we were looking for a coach is that you needed an IU guy. And so they go out and got Black Woodson, and now it's kind of working for the first time in a long time. So, it's always good to have an outside opinion, but always stick to people who know the program.
See, I disagree to a certain extent because I think this is a great move. Well, I guess I don't know, because Scheyer is a Duke guy, but anyways. I think it's a great move because not only does it bring in different candidates from all over the place with different ideas, different perspectives to add to what we're already doing, it expands the Brotherhood. We're about to take over people. It just keeps adding people, making our Brotherhood that much stronger. That's one of several things that I wish Mike Krzyzewski would have done. And sticking to my Blue Devils, Mike Elko signs an extension with Duke. Is this a good or bad move? I think, Matt, you want to take this one or you want me to dominate this one?
No, I'll do it real quick. Of course, it's a great move. The guy's delivered more than a few winning programs, and let me tell you something though, it's going to be hard to keep him if he pulls out that upset in Week 1 against Clemson. That's going to be the determining factor because if he does, it's going to be a long season in Durham, not because of the quality of football, but because of all the other teams struggling who are going to be sending their scouts out to see how devoted this guy is to that extension.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be completely honest. His extension is till 2029, and if he stays till 2029, I'll be in absolute heaven. Look at the success he's already have. I've said on the pod that we better give him whatever he wants to keep him in Durham, and it's only going to get worse. Stanford was already sniffing around this past offseason, and more will come the way he's turning around Duke football. But going on from one to that signed an extension to another that signed an extension that neither one of us are homers for, Dan Lanning signs an extension with Oregon. Good or bad move?
This one in the crystal ball is murky because, as we discussed, we don't know who he's going to be coordinating against going forward. He's not going to have to deal with USC anymore, which is good. He's not going to have to deal with UCLA anymore, which is good. But is he going to have the game plan against TCU, or is he going to have the game plan against Wyoming in conference play going forward? So my crystal ball is officially murky on this move. I'm going to say, time being, why not? But after the
Hmm.
dust settles, we'll have to discuss it further.
I like that you went from the conference realignment standpoint, and I went with the on-field standpoint. And I'm actually surprised by this one. Not that he signed an extension, but I thought when Dan Lanning was hired that Oregon would be more centered around the defense. But they had the 10th best offense in college football, opposed to the 75th ranked defense, and they still went 10-3 in year one. And I expect the defense to continue to improve. And as long as that offense produces to a relative level, Oregon's going to be scary. Dan
Yeah.
Lanning Dan Lanning was hired from Georgia after coaching one of the most dominant defenses in college football history. So if he can take any of that success and add it to Oregon, to add it to their defense with an already shown successful offense, that's going to be a tough team to beat.
Yep.
And my only concern is, will they have to rely on stud transfer quarterbacks to keep the offense rolling? He's not going to be able to, let's just call it what it is. He's not going to be able to replace Bo Nix with another Bo Nix year in and year out. It's just not going to happen. So, anyways, we got about 6 minutes to go, and I feel like I'm going to let Matt take this one. Florida State potentially leaving the ACC. What we got?
This is another one where this move could be absolutely seismic because the people forget, even though their top donors are being investigated by the SEC right now, and I'm not talking about the football conference. I'm talking about the government agency. That'll leave Miami out in the cold in terms of Florida schools, and they're not going to like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they jump ship after that. And it's just amazing to think about this, how football just dominates the sport so much now in terms of revenue, in terms of broadcasting rights, that we forget Florida State even and Miami have had decent basketball programs as of late. Florida State had a rough year last year, but they've been good consistently before that. Miami, of course, we all know what they did this year, and they've already used NIL to an extremely effective amount on both ends of the field, mostly in basketball. But if Florida State leaves, it would mean probably that Miami goes with them, and without those two schools, I don't know what happens to the ACC. All I know is that we could be watching in 2 years Louisville hosting TCU in a Big 12 conference game, and it would be really fun because that's the direction it could head if that happens. And like I said, does North Carolina join the Big 10? Does Virginia, because of its academic premise, investigate the Big 10? NC State would go. NC State just screams SEC to me. But if they do bolt, which I think could happen, but it's less likely than what's going on out west, it'll definitely it's gonna. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it effectively dissolved the ACC at that point. They've already had 7 schools prior to this look into leaving from the Virginia, Carolina areas, and if they lose Florida and all the Florida schools decide they want to be SEC, they'll just go by. The ACC will be done.
And that wraps up that narrative. So we're getting to our last narrative of the day as we approach 4 minutes to go. And who had the best sound bites from the conference media days? Matt, who is yours?
I really like Nick Saban giving a paragraph at the SEC media days of word vomit, where he basically goes, "Experience is good, but talent is also good." It's like, well, no dip, Nick Saban. That's not very That's very inquisitive of you to figure out that good coaching and good talent and experience combined to mean winning. It was just like, I don't know why exactly he said that or what the question was he was asked about it, but I just keep seeing all this stuff. He doesn't complain about the draft or anything, but he's just like, talent is good and experience is good, and I'm like, yeah. It reminds me of that meme from that forgettable like Wonder Woman movie a few years ago, where it's like where Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord is like, it's good, but it could be better. You know,
Yeah,
he said it's just like that. It's like, yeah, we know that, buddy. We know that. So that one was one that was just like, okay, I don't exactly know what the point is here, but it's always fun to watch these coaches kind of talk in circles. But that one was by far my favorite. Was being like, talent is good, and athletes are good, and it's like, yeah, that's accurate.
that's football. Yeah, that's SEC football, bud. I would
Very
say
good.
that's a very way to state the obvious. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Anyways, yeah, I lose more and more respect for Nick Saban every year, just the more he complains about coaches doing basically what he does year in and year out. But my favorite soundbite, I'm gonna stick in the SEC with this one. Kirby Smart literally made me want to run through a wall because I absolutely love the quote where he says, "Better never rests." I mean, that's awesome. I mean, he's
Here's
talking about a group of guys that are absolutely bought into, they've won back-to-back championships, and to establish this culture that like they're never trying. Even once you're at the top, the only way you can go down is down. The only way you can go is down, and that they don't ever want to go down. It's inspiring, and I think it's what we all should strive for. So, anyways, yes.
anytime someone says run through a wall, I just think of the Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. But anyways, that wraps up our narratives as we approach about 2 minutes to go before we got to get off here.
I don't know how we pulled that off, but we pulled it off.
We did. Sometimes we just got to really pull it out.
We dug deep. We played as a team. We out hustled, and we'll advance.
They had us in the first half. We're not going to lie.
We're just going to talk in cliches. We gave 110% to finish this in time.
Did we though? Did we though? I mean,
Okay.
I kind of was at like 75% this episode. I'm not going to lie.
I would say I'm at about 72%, so I get it.
Yeah.
Anytime we get to talk
Anyways,
about
do
conference
what?
expansion is fun.
Conference expansions are fun. And our next episode, it's about time for everyone's favorite segment, the cap or no cap, which we're going to have a lot to talk about. So stay tuned
Yeah.
for that one. But as always, comment in the comment sections below on both YouTube and Spotify at Less is More Sports what you liked, what you didn't like. Be sure to follow our pages on social media at Facebook and Twitter at Less is More Sports. And until next time, Matt and I are out.
We'll see you.